My dad humiliated me at my brother's army graduation, until a drill sergeant walked up and said, "My God! You're him?" Reddit stories. He called me, "Not a real man," in front of everyone. Then the sergeant recognized me from a classified case study, and my father realized, too late, who his son really was. Hi, I'm Logan, 28, and 3 months ago my dad humiliated me so loudly at my little brother's army boot camp graduation that half the crowd turned to stare. But then the drill sergeant walked up, took one look at me, and said a sentence that made my dad go dead silent. "My God, you're him?" "Yeah. Strap in." So here's the setup. My younger brother, Tyler, 22, enlisted right after college, military police. Good kid, hard worker, the one everyone expected to make something of himself. My parents adore him, worship him, practically knit him a cape. Me? According to my family, I peaked at age 10 when I won a regional spelling bee and everything's been downhill since. Never mind that I work a high-risk federal job I legally can't talk about. Never mind that I own a house, pay my bills, and stay out of trouble. To my dad, if you're not in uniform or holding a wrench, you're not a real man. Fun guy. Boot camp graduation day arrives. Huge event. Families everywhere, flags waving, proud parents crying, drill sergeants yelling at anyone who breathes funny. Tyler had been texting me for weeks. "Bro, you better come. You're the only one I actually want there. Dad's bringing the whole cheering squad." So of course I showed up. I wore simple clothes, plain black shirt, jeans, nothing flashy. I wasn't there to outshine anyone. I just wanted to support my brother. We got to the seating area, and the second I sat down, Dad turned around with that smirk he saves specifically for mocking me. "Well, look who finally decided to show up," he said. "Don't worry, Logan, you can just sit and watch a real man graduate." Mom chuckled like he told a hilarious joke instead of casually insulting his firstborn child in public. I ignored it. Ceremony started. The recruits marched out, perfect formation. Tyler spotted us and smiled hard enough to crack his face. I felt this rush of pride. My kid brother really did it. Then it happened. During the dismissal moment, when families rushed to greet the soldiers, Dad shoved past everyone like a linebacker and got to Tyler first. He clapped him on the back. "Congratulations, son. You're everything your brother never became." Loud. Public. Everyone heard. Even Tyler flinched. I stepped forward to greet him anyway. "Proud of you, man." Before Tyler could respond, Dad barked, "Stand back, Logan. Let the adults talk." And that's when the drill sergeant, this mountain of a man with a voice that could break glass, walked up behind Dad. He tapped Dad on the shoulder. Dad turned. The sergeant didn't salute. Didn't speak to him. He looked straight at me. Eyes wide. Pale. Almost startled. "My God," he said quietly. You're him?" Dad blinked. "Excuse me? Do you know my son?" The sergeant didn't even look at him. He stepped closer to me like he was approaching a rare creature. "I saw your file," he said. "In training. That operation in." I cut him off fast. "Sergeant. Not here." He straightened instantly. "Yes, sir. Apologies, sir." "Sir." My dad's jaw dropped so hard it nearly cracked the pavement. And that was just the beginning. The air went still. Even Tyler, still in uniform, stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Because this drill sergeant, this wall of muscle who had spent 10 weeks turning recruits into soldiers, was standing at attention in front of me like he'd accidentally stumbled into a classified briefing. Dad, meanwhile, looked like he was seconds away from demanding a manager. "Hold on," Dad snapped. "Why are you calling him sir? He works some office job. He's nothing special." The drill sergeant turned his head slowly, like a dog realizing someone just kicked a puppy. "Sir," he growled, "with respect, you have absolutely no idea who your son is." Dad scoffed. Yeah, he's a dropout who hides behind fancy job titles because he couldn't hack real hard work. I felt my stomach twist. Tyler winced. Mom pretended to fan herself like she was overwhelmed by all the attention. The drill sergeant squared his shoulders. Your son, he said, pointing at me, is referenced in 2 separate training modules. His actions in the Khost province incident are studied as a model for crisis response. I've taught it myself. Dad blinked hard. Khost, what? He croaked. People were starting to stare. Graduates. Parents. Officers from other platoons. Fantastic. I raised a hand quickly. Sergeant. You know I can't. Understood, sir, he said, lowering his voice. But your father should show a little damn respect. Dad opened and closed his mouth like a confused goldfish. Mom whispered, Logan, why is he calling you sir? I didn't answer. Couldn't. The drill sergeant did it for me. He outranks every single person here, he said. If he walked onto the base unannounced, half the command staff would lose sleep. My dad swallowed. Audibly. Tyler looked at me with this wide-eyed pride that just hit me. Because he'd always admired me, even when Dad tried to convince him I was some kind of failure. Wait, Tyler murmured. So all those times you told me you were just doing paperwork? I sighed. Yeah. That was the paperwork that happens after things go seriously wrong. Dad looked pale now, voice cracking. Logan, what exactly do you do? I met his eyes. I do my job, I said. And I don't come home bragging. The drill sergeant actually smiled, just a tiny curl at the corner of his mouth. He gave Tyler a proud slap on the shoulder. You've got a hell of a brother, Private. Then he turned to me one last time. Sir, if you ever need anything from this base, you come straight to me. And he walked off, leaving my father looking like someone had unplugged his brain. Tyler stepped toward me. Bro, why didn't you tell me? Wasn't allowed to, I said. Still not, mostly. Dad finally found his voice. But you're not even in uniform. How could you? I shrugged. Turns out you don't need a uniform to serve. And for the first time in my life, my dad didn't have a comeback. Dad stood there, silent, pale, and blinking fast, like someone had hit his brain with a frying pan. This man, who had spent years mocking me, calling me soft, asking why I wasn't more like Tyler, was suddenly trying to compute the idea that I wasn't the family disappointment. I was the family unknown classification level. Tyler was grinning ear to ear. Holy hell, Logan, he whispered. You're a legend. I shook my head. I'm a guy who did a dangerous job. That's it. But Tyler wasn't having it. No, he said, stepping closer. I'm serious. They literally showed your case in class. The rescue in Khost? They said whoever coordinated it saved over 40 personnel. That was you? I didn't answer. Didn't need to. The look on the drill sergeant's face earlier said enough. Dad finally croaked. Logan, why didn't you tell us? I turned to him, calm. You spent my whole life telling me I wasn't enough. That everything I did was a joke. That I wasn't a real man. So no, Dad. I didn't feel the need to update you on my resume. Mom whispered, but we're your family. I let out a humorless laugh. Really? Because every time I visited, you acted like I was a cautionary tale. Tyler could come home and say he learned how to fold socks, and you'd throw him a parade. I show up after a 96-hour crisis shift, and you ask why I'm not wearing a suit. Tyler winced. He remembered that day too. Dad tried to recover, puffing up slightly. Well, you could have told us. We're your parents. I stared at him. Dad, if I'd gone to space and walked on Mars, you'd complain that I didn't bring you back a rock. Mom whispered. That's not true. It's completely true, Tyler muttered. You two act like Logan's invisible. Dad snapped at him. Stay out of this. And that was when the drill sergeant, who had apparently been watching from a distance, marched back over. He stopped beside Tyler and said in a voice that made the grass tremble, "Sir, you're speaking to a soldier. You will show him respect." Dad shut his mouth so fast his teeth clacked. Tyler looked like he wanted to laugh but also didn't want to do push-ups until he died. The drill sergeant then turned to me. "Sir, Command would like to know if you're staying for the private recognition ceremony." Dad's eyes flew open. "He's invited to what?" The sergeant ignored him completely. "I can escort you personally," he added. I lifted a hand. "Thanks, Sergeant. But I'm just here as a brother today." Tyler's face softened. The drill sergeant nodded like I just passed some secret character test. "Yes, sir. Understood." He left again. And now Dad wasn't just stunned, he was confronted with something he had never experienced in his entire life. The realization that he had misjudged me. Badly. Repeatedly. And publicly. He tried again, voice trembling. "Logan, son. I didn't know. I didn't realize." I cut him off. "You never asked?" Silence. Thick enough to choke on. Mom touched Dad's arm. "Maybe we should just—" "No," Dad snapped, trying to regroup. "We're going to talk about this. Right now." But Tyler stepped between us. "No," he said firmly. "Not today. This is my graduation. And I want to spend it with Logan." Dad's face went slack. "Tyler." "I said what I said," Tyler replied. "You can join us if you stop acting like a jerk. Otherwise, go home." My dad, the loudest, proudest, most stubborn man I'd ever known, was being told off by the son he always favored. And the worst part? He deserved every word. This was the turning point. The moment everybody's roles flipped. Dad wasn't the hero today. Dad wasn't the authority today. Dad wasn't the center of the family today. For the first time ever, I was. Dad stepped back like Tyler had slapped him. Not physically, emotionally. This was the first time in his entire life that the golden son chose me over him. And he did it loudly. In uniform. In front of half the graduation field. That alone was enough to make my dad sputter like a lawnmower with bad gas. Meanwhile, Mom looked like she wanted to evaporate through the grass. Tyler turned to me, eyes bright, voice low. "Come on, man. Let's go take pictures." He grabbed my arm and practically dragged me toward the big photo banner where all the families were lined up. Dad and Mom trailed behind like two chastised border collies. Except Dad. Dad was steaming. A pressure cooker about to blow. "Tyler," he snapped, "this is ridiculous. You can't ignore your own parents." Tyler didn't even look at him. "I'm not ignoring you," he said flatly. "I'm prioritizing respect. Something you never give Logan." Dad's voice rose. "This is your brother we're talking about." "Exactly," Tyler shot back. "And you treat him like garbage." People started glancing over. Moms holding balloons. Grandparents with cameras. Even a couple drill sergeants. Dad realized he was drawing attention and lowered his volume, but not his attitude. Well, maybe if he acted like part of this family. I turned around slowly. "Dad," I said, "let's save it. Tyler's right. Today's about him. Not you. Not me. Him." Mom whispered, "Logan, please." "No, Mom," I said gently. "Let me speak." She fell silent. "Dad, I wasn't asking for medals," I said. "Not applause. Not special treatment. All I ever wanted from you was basic respect. You couldn't manage that. Not once." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Tyler stepped closer. "And now that you know who Logan really is, now you want to rewrite the script. Sorry. Doesn't work like that." Dad's face tightened. "You're talking back to me on your graduation day?" Tyler shrugged. "Guess I'm finally a man now." That one hit Dad harder than the drill sergeant's salute. Photo time, and the shift everyone felt. When we got to the photo area, something unexpected happened. A few of Tyler's fellow graduates walked up, guys he'd trained with for 10 weeks. Tough dudes. Worn boots. Faces sunburned and proud. One pointed at me. "You're Tyler's brother, right?" I nodded. "Dude," he grinned. "We heard about you. Our DS used your case in training." Tyler beamed. "Told you." Another leaned in. "Respect, man. Whatever you did out there, it's legendary." Dad overheard. And his entire posture collapsed. Not dramatically, just subtly enough that I knew he felt it. He realized Tyler respected me. Other soldiers respected me. Drill sergeants respected me. Strangers respected me. And he never did. We posed for pictures. Tyler in the middle, his uniform crisp, his smile enormous. He had an arm around me the whole time. Dad stood to the side, stiff, hands in pockets, like he wasn't sure where he belonged anymore. When the last photo was taken, Tyler turned to me. "Logan, come to the unit lunch? Please. Sit with me." I nodded. "Of course." Dad tried to step in. "We're the parents, we should." Tyler cut him off. "Yeah, and Logan's sitting next to me. You and Mom can sit wherever you want." Dad's face twisted like he'd swallowed a lemon. But it wasn't his choice today. For once. The lunch, where my dad finally cracked. The lunch hall was buzzing with energy. Families everywhere. Soldiers showing off their insignias. Drill sergeants pretending not to care while totally caring. Tyler and I sat at a table near the center. Dad sat across from us with the look of a man who had never been less in control of any situation ever in his life. Mom tried breaking the tension with small talk. "So, Logan, how's work?" Tyler snorted. "Don't start pretending you were always interested." Mom blushed. Dad couldn't hold it anymore. "What exactly did you do?" he demanded quietly. "Because that sergeant acted like you're some kind of ghost?" Tyler supplied. "Shadow? Real-life Jason Bourne? Certified badass?" "Tyler," Mom hissed. He shrugged. "What?" "That's literally what they called him." Dad's eyes locked onto mine. "Logan. Tell me. Please." And for the first time in 2 decades, his voice cracked. Not angry. Not mocking. Not dominant. Small. Like a man who just realized he'd been wrong for a very long time. But I kept my voice level. "I can't tell you, Dad. Not because I don't want to. Because I'm not legally allowed to." He exhaled shakily. I didn't know," he murmured. I nodded. "I know. And that's the point." Dad swallowed. "Son, I owe you an apology." Tyler nearly dropped his fork. Dad continued, voice thick. "I'm proud of you. I should have said that years ago. I'm sorry." Silence fell. The kind that feels like a bruise turning into a scar. I didn't gloat. Didn't lecture him. Didn't rub his face in it. I just nodded. "Thank you?" Dad blinked fast. Looked down. Wiped his eyes. That was the first time I'd ever seen him cry. And that was the moment his entire view of me shattered and rebuilt itself. The midpoint climax. But what came next? That was where everything truly changed. Dad's apology hung in the air like smoke, visible, heavy, impossible to ignore. For 20 years that man had been a brick wall. Loud, stubborn, unbreakable, and absolutely allergic to admitting fault. And now he sat there, in an army dining hall, eyes red, hands clasped, voice small, saying the words I never, not once, expected to hear. "I'm sorry." Tyler looked at me like, "Bro, is this real life?" Even Mom seemed shocked, blinking rapidly like someone had rebooted her husband. But I didn't let myself get swept up in the moment. Because apologies are only the down payment. Change is the full price. I nodded once. "I appreciate that." Dad swallowed, wiped his mouth with a napkin, then tapped the table nervously. I know I've been hard on you. Tyler snorted. Loud. Understatement of the century. Tyler, Mom hissed. He needs to hear it, Tyler muttered. Dad sighed. Fine. I've been too hard. But you have to understand. Stop, I said gently, but firmly. Dad blinked. You don't get to justify it, I continued. Not today. He shut his mouth. The silence that followed wasn't hostile, it was honest. For the first time ever. The soldiers noticed something. As we sat there in this tense, fragile, awkward family reset, two of Tyler's platoon buddies approached the table. They didn't look at Dad. Didn't look at Mom. They looked straight at me. Sir? One of them said, nodding respectfully. Dad nearly choked on his water. Private Miller, Tyler said. This is my brother Logan. Oh yeah, Miller said, smiling. We heard about him. Another recruit, Sanchez, elbowed him. He's the guy from the case study. That operation in Cost. Diaz talked about him for like 15 minutes. Mom's mouth dropped. Dad froze. Sanchez turned to me. That was insane, man. I mean, we know they don't teach the classified details, but the planning? The timing? They said whoever coordinated that saved half the base. I lifted a hand quickly. Guys, that's enough. They straightened immediately. Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. They walked off. Dad stared after them like he was watching aliens disembark from a UFO. Then he turned to me. Logan, what were you doing out there? I shrugged. Doing my job, I said. Same as Tyler now. Tyler grinned. Except his job is apparently saving armies. Mom whispered, Why didn't you ever tell us? I sighed. I did. You just never listened. Every time I said I couldn't discuss work, you assumed it was because I had nothing important to talk about. Mom went silent. Dad looked like he'd been hit by a truck. After lunch, the walk that changed everything. Tyler wanted pictures with some of the equipment displays on the far end of the field, so we all walked together. As we moved, soldiers and officers kept nodding at me. Not dramatically. Not conspicuously. Just the kind of professional recognition that made Dad walk a little slower behind us each time. When Tyler ran ahead to take photos with his buddies, Dad pulled up beside me. Logan. He paused, voice low. Did I fail you? The question punched me right in the ribs. And for the first time, I didn't try to dodge it. You didn't fail me, I said quietly. You just never saw me. Dad swallowed hard. I didn't know how. I know, I said. But that doesn't make it hurt less. He nodded. Took a shaky breath. Stared at the ground. Can we fix it? He asked softly. I took a long moment. Maybe, I said. But it's going to take time. And real effort. Not just apologies when someone outranks you. Dad let out a huff that was half laugh, half sob. Fair enough. For once. My dad wasn't talking at me or over me or through me. He was talking to me. And that was the beginning of something new. But the real test? That came when we got home. The drive home was the quietest 2-hour car ride of my life. No lectures. No passive-aggressive comments. No. You know, Tyler could teach you a thing or two. Just silence. The heavy, reflective kind. The kind that means someone's gears are grinding hard. Tyler sat beside me in the back seat, still buzzing from graduation, still replaying the drill sergeant calling me, sir, like it was the funniest and coolest thing he'd ever seen. Every 10 minutes he'd whisper, Bro, BRO. Did you see Dad's face? I'd whisper back, Focus on the road. He's going to hit a mailbox if he keeps side-eyeing me. Dad did keep side-eyeing me. Every few miles he'd glance at the rearview mirror like he was checking if I was still the same person, or if I'd sprouted extra classified limbs. Mom kept clasping and unclasping her hands. She finally asked, Logan, Are you in danger? I shrugged. Not today. Tyler laughed. Dad nearly veered off the road. At the house, the shift in atmosphere. We got home and Tyler went to change out of his uniform. Mom shuffled into the kitchen to make coffee. Dad lingered in the hallway like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to breathe near me. Then he spoke. Logan, sit with me? He asked quietly. It was strange. My dad doesn't ask. He orders. Commands. Barks. Grunts. He doesn't request. But he did now. We sat at the dining table, same place he'd lectured me, scolded me, mocked me for years. The room felt different. Smaller. More fragile. Dad cleared his throat. I talked to Tyler's drill sergeant, he said. After lunch. Pulled him aside. I blinked. Oh boy. He told me, well, more than I expected. Not details. He said he couldn't. But he said this. Your older son is the kind of man who walks toward danger so others can walk away from it. You should be proud. Dad's eyes got glossy. And he said, Dad added, voice cracking, that I was lucky you turned out the way you did. My chest tightened. Dad wiped his face and continued. I thought being a man meant working with your hands. Holding a wrench. Building things. Hard labor. I thought that made you strong. He shook his head slowly. But today, I learned how wrong I was. The room was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I'm sorry, Logan, Dad whispered. I'm sorry for every time I made you feel less. I didn't speak. For once. Dad did the talking. I know I can't undo the years, he said. But I want to try. I want to be better. I want to know you. The real you. Not the version I made up to feel superior. He looked down, ashamed. Will you let me try? The old me would have cracked a joke. Deflected. Shrugged. But after everything. Seeing him cry, seeing him humbled, seeing him real. I answered honestly. I will. I said. But slowly. Trust rebuilds, Dad. It doesn't reset. He nodded, swallowing hard. That's fair. Tyler walks in. Just then Tyler entered the room, half eating a sandwich. He looked between me and Dad and froze. You guys, okay? Dad wiped his eyes. Yeah. Working on it. Tyler blinked twice. Damn. He muttered. I graduate one day and look at you two acting like adults. I snorted. Shut up. Tyler grinned. Make me go stops. Dad flinched but didn't comment. Progress. Later that night. Dad knocked on my door. Another first. Logan, would you join us downstairs? Just for a movie. As a family. I hesitated. But Tyler popped into the hallway and whispered. Come on, man. You have no idea how rare this is. He's been a kitten since that sergeant bowed at you. And for once, Dad wasn't barking or demanding or shaming. He was asking. So I went. We watched a stupid action movie Tyler loved. Dad made popcorn. Mom tried not to cry every time I laughed at something. And for the first time in years, it actually felt like a family. Not perfect. Not healed. Not fixed. But trying. And that was new. 3 days after Tyler's graduation weekend, I was back at my own place, sitting at my desk finishing a secure report. It was routine stuff, nothing dramatic, but the kind of document that would have made my dad's head explode if he ever saw the clearance level stamped across the top. I closed the file, shut down the system, and cracked open a root beer. Then my phone buzzed. Dad. Again. My dad does not text. He thinks emojis are government spyware. The message was short. Can you come by the house? Something's happened. My stomach tightened. I grabbed my keys and drove the familiar 35 minutes to my parents' place, every worst-case scenario cycling through my brain. Car accident? Mom sick? Tyler got injured at training? I pulled into the driveway, got out and found Dad standing on the porch. But he wasn't upset. He was furious. And not at me. He held up his phone, face bright red, jaw clenched tight enough to shatter steel. "Look," he growled, thrusting the screen into my hand. I took it. Saw the sender. Recognized the number instantly. My cousin Daniel. The same cousin who spread rumors for years about me being weak, delicate, not man enough, probably faking his job, and who once told my dad I'd only gone into intelligence work because I couldn't handle real military labor. Now he'd sent a message to my father that read, "He showed up at graduation acting like some big shot. Everybody knows intel guys are just desk jockeys. Logan's been lying to you for years. He's embarrassed this family enough." Dad inhaled sharply, nostrils flaring. "He sent that to me," Dad said, voice trembling with anger. "To me. After everything." I blinked. Then blinked again. "You're mad?" Dad's eyebrows shot up. "Of course I'm mad." "But it's never bothered you before when he..." Dad cut me off with a raised hand. "Not tonight. Sit down. There's more." We went inside. Mom was at the kitchen table with her laptop open, looking like she'd aged 10 years in 2 hours. "Logan, honey, just sit." Dad paced behind her like an enraged bull trying to stay inside the pen. Mom clicked something on her screen and turned it toward me. It was a screenshot. A group chat. Extended family. You know the type. The cousins, the aunts, we see each other every 3 years at funerals. People. Daniel had been busy. He'd written, "Logan is exaggerating his service. Acting important to impress Tyler. Dad says intel guys are basically glorified goodlas. They get cleared because they can't fight." Under it were replies. Aunt Kelly. He always was dramatic. Cousin Rick. Probably jealous of Tyler. Someone else. Didn't he cry during football once? Dad looked like his soul was catching fire. "Logan," he said, "I want you to read what I replied." He snatched back the laptop, scrolled down, and showed me. And I swear, I nearly dropped the damn thing. Dad had written, "Logan saved more lives before breakfast than Daniel has in his entire existence. My son is 10 times the man any of you ever will be. If I hear one more word disrespecting him, I swear on everything I love I will drive to each of your houses individually." Mom patted his arm. "Tell him the big part." Dad exhaled sharply. I left the group. He muttered. My jaw dropped. "You left the family group chat?" Dad nodded stiffly, like a general admitting he nuked a small country. "And your mother left too?" Mom lifted her hand. "I did. Immediately. Tyler left right after." Dad added. "Said if Logan's out, I'm out?" Proud of that boy. I sank into the chair, overwhelmed. Dad sat down too, slowly. Carefully. Like the anger was still hot under his skin, but he didn't want it spilling on me. "Son," he said quietly, "I know I failed before. I know I didn't respect your work. Didn't understand it. Didn't even try." He looked me dead in the eyes. "But if anyone thinks they can disrespect you now, they'll go through me first." My throat tightened. "And I don't care who it is," he added. "Family or not." That one hit deep. Because Dad used to worship family loyalty, even when that family treated us like trash. He was changing. Really changing. I rubbed my face, taking a shaky breath. "Thanks, Dad." He nodded once. Strong. Firm. Then he pulled out his phone. "No," he said, voice suddenly light with mischief I hadn't seen in years. "Help me craft a response to Daniel's last message. I want to make sure I spell every insult correctly." I laughed. Mom laughed. Dad smirked. The air felt lighter. New. Strangely healthy. But the next day, everything escalated in a way none of us expected. Because Daniel wasn't done. And his next move? It wasn't petty. It was personal. Daniel didn't attack through text this time. No snide little group chat messages. No snarky comments filtered through relatives. No. He went for something bigger. Meaner. Desperate. I found out at 7:12 the next morning. I'd barely woken up, still half asleep, when my phone started vibrating nonstop, 5 calls back to back from numbers I didn't recognize. I ignored them, assuming it was spam, until a 6th came in. Private number. Those are never spam. I answered. Logan Miller? Yes. This is Sergeant Keaton from Personnel Security. We need to speak with you regarding a call we received. My entire body went cold. From who? I asked. There was a pause. A family member. Claims you've been misrepresenting your service record and may have accessed classified materials without authorization. I had to sit down. Sir, I said slowly, I need you to tell me exactly who made that accusation. Someone identifying himself as Daniel Miller. Of course. Of course it was. The sergeant continued. We're required to follow up on all claims, even obviously false ones. Are you available today to come in and resolve this immediately? Yes, I said instantly. I can be there in 20. Good. Bring your ID and badge. This shouldn't take long. He hung up. I sat there for a moment in stunned silence. Accusing someone with my clearance of misusing classified material wasn't petty anymore. It wasn't rude. It wasn't mean-spirited family drama. It was criminal. He'd made a false allegation to a federal office. Dad was going to lose his mind. The security office, 22 minutes later. I showed up. They scanned my badge. Escorted me in. The sergeant who called me was professional, calm, and already annoyed on my behalf. Don't worry, he said, flipping through paperwork. We know exactly what this is. It's my cousin, I said. He's been harassing my family. Yeah, he replied dryly. We figured. He slid a form across the desk. This is the official record of the complaint. You'll see we've already marked it as not credible. This meeting is a formality. I scanned the paper. Daniel hadn't just said I misrepresented my job. He'd claimed I was lying about missions, pretending to work in intelligence, falsifying military involvement, accessing data to impress people, and my favorite, he's trying to make himself look like a war hero to overshadow his brother. I actually laughed. The sergeant smirked. We get these sometimes, he said. Jealous family members. Bitter exes. People trying to sabotage careers. Usually it's pathetic. This one? He shrugged. Textbook. He took the form back, stamped it, and slid another page toward me. This one's for you. If you want to pursue harassment charges, slander, or a federal penalty for filing a false report, sign here. I blinked. This is the actual law? Absolutely. False reporting to a federal office is no joke. I stared at the signature line. Thought of Dad. Thought of Mom. Thought of Tyler. Thought of Daniel, who had always been cruel, but now stepped into dangerous territory. I picked up the pen. Signed my name. The sergeant grinned. We'll take it from here. Back at home. Dad was waiting on the porch again. He saw me get out of the car. Saw the folder in my hand. Saw my expression. He stepped off the porch fast. What happened? I handed him the paperwork. Dad read the first paragraph. And his face darkened like a storm rolling over a mountain. He filed a federal complaint? Dad roared. Is he out of his damn mind? Mom came running. What is it? What's wrong? Dad shoved the paper toward her, hands shaking. He tried to destroy our son's career. He tried to get him arrested. Mom gasped, hand covering her mouth. Tyler, who'd come home for a weekend break, walked out shirtless holding a protein shake. What the hell happened? I explained everything. Tyler stared at me for a second, then whispered, "I'm gonna fist fight him." Dad snapped. "No one's fighting anyone, because Logan already handled it legally." Mom exhaled. Thank God. Dad wasn't calming down, though. He paced the porch like a caged animal. First he insults you. Then he lies about you. Then he runs his mouth in group chats. And now this? He tried to sabotage your entire life. Your career. Everything you worked for. He stopped pacing. Looked at me. Voice low, trembling with emotion he was still learning how to express. "Logan, I'm sorry I ever let people like him influence how I saw you." I swallowed. Hard. Dad continued. "You never needed to prove anything to me. I was just too damn stubborn to see the man you already were." He stepped toward me. Put a hand on my shoulder, the first gentle gesture from him I could remember since childhood. "I'm proud of you, son." My chest tightened. Dad looked at Tyler. "And if Daniel ever shows his face at another family function, we're all leaving." Tyler grinned. "I'll flip the table on my way out." Mom nodded firmly. "We're done with them." And that was it. Decades of pressure, comparison, family expectation, and quiet resentment, finally snapping clean. Not because of me. Because of Dad. My father, the man who'd once called my job fake, and my work book stuff, now defending me with more fire than I ever thought he possessed. 3 months later. Daniel backed off the moment he got the legal notice. He didn't apologize. Didn't show his face. Didn't message anyone. He disappeared. Holidays came. And for the first time ever, my family didn't invite him. Dad actually said, "If he arrives, Thanksgiving is over. I'll throw the turkey at him." I never thought I'd laugh at that man, but I did. Mom started asking questions, real questions, about my work, the unclassified parts. She listened. Asked follow-ups. Wanted to understand. Tyler bragged about me to literally everyone who would listen. And Dad? Dad introduced me differently now. Not as my older boy. Not as the one who reads too much. Not as the brain of the family. He'd smile, broad, proud, grateful, and say, "This is my son Logan. He's the reason a lot of soldiers make it home alive." And every time he said it, I felt something repair itself inside me. Something that had been cracked since I was a kid. We weren't perfect. We weren't magically healed. But we were a family again. A better one. A chosen one. And I didn't need Daniel. Didn't need the old group chat. Didn't need the validation I chased for so long. I finally had what I'd been waiting for. Respect. Understanding. And a father who saw me. Not the version he wanted. But the man I really was. The man I'd been all along.